Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Hello and welcome to Across the Park podcast with myself, Ian Mills, joined by a man who's famous on YouTube, a man who made little boys like me want to be YouTube celebrities like himself. Everybody knows it's Mike from the Blue Boys Network. Mike, thanks for joining us. How are you, my friends?
Yeah, mate, no worries. I mean, I feel like I should note that we've had technical issues today, so this is the second time we've recorded this, and my setup is a lot worse than it was this morning. But
yes.
Look, we'll forgive you, Millsy. We will forgive you, and it's lovely to be back on Across the Park, everyone. It's been a long time since we've done some content together, mate. We need to sort it out, really.
I know. What Mike alluding to there is we're finished work now, so we're doing this show. We did try and cram it in on lunch. Mike, being the ultra professional that he is, was completely let down by myself and my sound setup. So we're probably going to try and do a brand new show and try and think back to what we actually said, because we were quite pleased with the show earlier. So we're sorry we can't bring that one to you, but I think we're sounding okay. The best thing about this one, Mike, is now we're after work, because I've also got my trusted little bottle of beer. Now I can actually officially drink in case my boss is watching. What I want to do, if you don't mind, is look at the run-in. I think me and you, I've watched your shows. I know you've watched ours, and we're dealing with things in the present. We're dealing with game by game. We're reacting. We're previewing. I do want to look ahead, but before I do, how are you feeling as an Evertonian right now in this moment? I think last time we spoke on a show, we were both really worried. We didn't quite know what this new manager was going to give us. Was he going to fall flat on his face? Was he going to give us an injection of something that would really help? I think it's the latter. How are you feeling at the moment as an Evertonian?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a breath of fresh air, if I'm being honest. You know, this Everton side of, I said it a few times earlier in the season. I said it right at the start of the season. I said the thing that would cost Everton was goals. And what Sean Dyche has managed to do is he's managed to find some from somewhere. And don't get me wrong, we're not scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game, no. But we're keeping ourselves in games. You know, we go and score 2 goals away at Chelsea. I wouldn't, if you'd have said that to me 10 weeks ago, I would have laughed at you. We're scoring multiple goals at home. We are being able to keep ourselves in games for longer. So all of a sudden, it's much more positive. You know, as the future goes, we've got 10 massive games, as we know, but the season feels like chalk and cheese compared to where we were with Lampard and where we are with Dyche. And it feels like Sean Dyche is coming, and I said this the very first press conference he did for us against Arsenal at Goodison. He reassured me. He reassured me that everything would be all right. And if you remember me, because we saw each other in the hub that day, I came over to you. I sat down in a corner with a few of your friends.
Yeah.
And some people were negative, some people were positive, and I sat there and I says, do you know what? I'm convinced it's going to be all right. And some people laughed at me. I would have laughed at myself, but actually, we've done really, really, really well to pick up the points that we've picked up in games that you probably wouldn't have said Everton would have done. It's just really positive sign. So yeah, man, I'm infused by what's going on, and I really think we've got well, at least the next 2 years to probably get a bit excited about, because I feel like this club's going to finally go in the right direction.
It's amazing what this game can do to you when you're out of form. You're watching your team out of form and you're worrying and you're taking that into your private life. And your private life also becomes a better place when the opposite happens. You feel better about waking up and looking at the internet and looking at the fixtures and feeling it's amazing what football can do to, and especially our football club, the most special football club, as we know, of all time. It can make you feel so angry and so joyous within a week. And I think that's where we are as a fan base. I think there's a lot going on. We're not going to touch upon all that. We're going to keep it to on the pitch. I do want to look ahead to the run. First question I want to ask is there's about 8 teams in this dogfight. I've never seen it as in-depth as this, where 12th are looking at 20th going, shit, and 20th looking at 12th going, I'll have some of that. And everyone's playing each other, and everyone's taking points off each other. The question I want to ask you, Mike, is it a benefit for Everton for that many teams to be in this fight, or would you prefer to almost be fighting for 17th, 16th with 2 other teams and the 2 behind you gone?
No, I quite like it the way it is, if I'm being honest. And I mentioned it earlier when we did the video. Eventually, there is going to be teams cut adrift, because while Everton play teams like Spurs at home, they're not playing the teams below them. But the teams below them, this weekend, well, next weekend especially, are all seemingly to playing against each other. So Palace are playing Leicester.
Yeah.
You know, Forest are playing Wolves. West Ham are playing Southampton. Now, if those games go 3 draws and Everton beat Spurs, there's at least a 4 to 5 point gap on some of those teams. Yeah. So all of a sudden, there is going to be a gap. All Everton have to do is concentrate on winning their games, and they will stay up. But now, I said in the video earlier, and I will repeat it again here, I'm convinced we stay up now. I'm absolutely convinced. But while all these teams we're all playing each other, there's enough fixtures where we all play each other, where these teams haven't been separated yet. And it's really weird to say that, but you've got 3 teams at the bottom that genuinely, after this week, could be level on points with Everton.
Yeah.
But you've got then Everton playing Spurs and could go 3 points ahead of them, obviously. But if those teams lose, that gap is going to start widening. So, for example, if West Ham beat Southampton, I think the gap then is 6 points. That's and if the other teams like Everton and who's another one, Forest beat Wolves, you're going to have Forest on, I don't know what it would work out, 28 points. Everton, if we beat Spurs, 28 points, whatever it is. Then you're going to have teams like Southampton stuck on 23, and all of a sudden there is that gap. So that gap, I can assure you, is coming, and it's going to come very, very quickly at this point. And I think if Everton are in the bottom 3 by the end of April, I think we stay up comfortably. I really do. I'm convinced of it. What I would say is there's a flip to that, and because there's 8 teams that are all in this mix, we all might take points off each other. But the benefit of when you're not playing those teams is that it's sort of not free hits, but it's opportunities to get out of it without having to inflict any damage. It doesn't affect us if we lose. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't ordinarily affect us if we lose, because we're not in control of that. Teams that are playing those teams are in control of that. I'm really making a shit effort of explaining this point.
I'm with you. I'm like that. I'm with you.
my point is, if Everton beat Spurs, that is better than if Everton go and beat Southampton, because I know people will say, but it's not. Southampton are already playing games they're going to lose. You want these teams to take points off each other, and Everton to take points off another team, so they can catch up with the people above them. I'm not all of a sudden saying Everton are going to finish above Spurs, but you want these teams below us to hurt each other. And when we're not playing them, it's an opportunity for us to get out of it, because these teams could draw with each other. And that's what we want. We want these teams below us and around us to draw with each other while Everton keep winning. Monday, not this week, next week, is a massive opportunity for Everton, because with so many teams against each other in the league, And they've all got games in hand as well, by the way. So, again, in the week, the Tuesday, Leeds are playing Forest. There's a lot of these games where Everton, they just win the games, we'll run away. We will run away from them. And if we beat these teams below us, it'll be even worse for them. So, yeah, I think Everton's in a great position. I really do. And I think going forward, I think Everton's a different team.
Yeah, I think the not so much the worrying thing, because I do want this to be a sort of a positive show, but to be realistic, the thing that winds me up is I'm looking at about 7 teams every weekend, and I'm thinking, how are Leicester getting on? How are Palace getting on? How are Southampton, Bournemouth? How are Forest? How are all these teams getting on? West Ham, Leicester, and I just think there's a danger of, if we lose some personnel, and we'll get into personnel later. If Everton lose a certain player or two for suspension injury, then we've got 6 teams on our heels, not just the 1 or 2. So for me, I can't wait for the league to pull away. I can't wait for that gap, and I really do hope that we're in that gap, because I can't spend my Saturdays looking at 7 teams every week. It's just it's unbearable at times. But I agree with you. It's nice to be in a situation where we're looking below us at 5 teams. It's 5 teams below us, and we're saying, if you guys take points off each other and we get 3 bonus points and a bonus point the following week, we're out of it. Looking at the running, I'm minded to say, so you're looking at United, Fulham, Palace, and Newcastle as a group of 4 fixtures, and that's coming after the Spurs game. And then you've got Leicester as well. I think that's what Everton get out of it. I think that's where we have to get out of it. Spurs, I think, are a dangerous animal. I think they've absolutely been laughed at in the media the past week. At the Antonio Conte comments, certain members of the media have jumped on that. I think that's probably the worst timing for us, proper Everton. So the Spurs game is one I'm looking at, and I'm not going to leave Goodison Park disheartened if we're not good enough, because there's plenty of games still to come. I think you could probably get something at United because they're quite indifferent, and we played well there already in the Cup. I think that will hold us in good stead, that you can go there and frustrate them. I think they've got some suspensions with Casemiro as well, who's a big player for them. But then, Mike, you're looking at a block of fixtures for me. Fulham at home, Palace away, Newcastle at home, Leicester away. I think if Everton take 9 or 10 points from there, we don't worry about Brighton away and City away. You can sort it, because they're 2 tough games that are coming next. And I think you then go into Wolves away and Bournemouth at home, which are the final 2 games. Possibly not mathematically out of it, but maybe 5 points away from it with 2 games. And I think that block of fixtures is where Everton need to pick up their points. Is that something you'd agree with, or do you think we can do even better looking at the Spurs and United games?
Yeah, I don't want to be over carried away. That's my problem. But I think I think Everton will lose 3 games out of the 10. And I think that is more than enough points in those 7 games to keep Everton in the Premier League. Yeah. Whether it be wins and draws, it doesn't really matter. I think we beat Bournemouth. I think we beat Fulham. I think we probably beat Newcastle. I think we're capable of getting at least a point against Spurs. So there's 10 points.
So that almost puts you in such a good place with a large number of games still to come.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's then a case of, well, what can we get away from home? Can we go to, places like Wolves? Can we go to places like Brighton? Can we go and get a point away at Leicester, for example? This Everton side, if they can pick up, well, I think they will, which is 12 to 13 points. Maybe even a couple more. This Everton team's not going to be finishing 17th. It's going to be finishing 12th or 13th. And the financial implement of that is, I think it's an extra £2.4 million per spot, which is another positive while there's 8 teams down there. So from a financial fair play perspective, if you're basing it on what we had this season compared to what we potentially could have next season, it could be really positive for Everton. So look, I seriously think we're fine. I seriously think there's enough points in the season for us to stay up. That's not the question for me anymore. The question for me is, what do we do with the management of the squad, for example? What do we do with the management going forward? You know, I think enough is enough of this relegation battle, season in, season out. I think now we need to concentrate on going forward, and I think that is going to be massively key to just get this season out of the way. Stop looking at the 7 or 8 teams that we all stress about every week. Stop all of that.
Yeah.
And go into the summer with potentially a little bit of money to spend and looking like we're going to go in the right direction with a man that knows what he's doing. And that's the positive for me. So I think in fixtures we're fine this season. I really, it wouldn't surprise, it would not surprise me if Everton put on a run where we win 2 or 3 games on the bounce and we go clear. You know, like you were talking about being clear. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if we beat Spurs, we lose to United, and we win the 3 after. It wouldn't surprise me.
Right, I really hope you're right. I'm looking at, again, the fixtures. I think before we do move over to personnel, those last 2 games where I've said Wolves away and Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth at home on the 28th of May is just a fixture that when it came out last June scared me. It's a fixture I still look at and I don't want to look at it too long. It's a fixture I don't want to go into needing anything from. So it's imperative for me. And like I say, I don't want to repeat myself, but at the start of May, we have Brighton and City back to back. There has to be enough distance. Are there any banana skins there for you? Are there any games you're looking at where you say, I know, take Spurs and United away and City and Brighton away, the teams around us, I'm looking at Monday Night Football, Leicester away. I'm looking at Palace away. Have Everton got to go and win those 2 games for you, or can Everton go and draw those games?
No, I think they can draw them. I think Everton need a big win on Monday night. I think they have to beat Spurs. And I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but I think if Everton can keep just picking up 4 points in every 2 games, they're going to be safe. I don't expect us to get anything at United. The 3 games after that is Fulham at home. I think we win 3 points. Palace away, point. Newcastle at home. I think we win. So there's 7. So I've give us 10 points in April. Now that's on top of the 11 that Dyche has already won. Or is it 12 now? Whatever it is. As Everton manager so far in 8 games. So I think he's going to do a similar job. And even if Everton don't beat Tottenham, even if they get a point, I still think we beat Newcastle. We're more than capable of beating Palace. We'll beat Fulham at home. I don't think we get anything at United. So even that is still 8 points. So no matter where we are, I think we're fine. I don't see us losing the games that we need to. I don't see us losing the games we need to win, because I don't think Sean Dyche has got that mentality to lie down. And we saw that ourselves last season. You know, Everton were 2-1 up away at Burnley, a game that you'd probably say at that point Everton could kick on, and they beat us 3-2 because he knew that Everton wouldn't win that game of football. He come out and he said it wasn't derogatory, wasn't aggressive towards Frank. He knew we didn't know how to win football games. He doesn't have that anymore. The game that disappoints him and still disappoints him to this day, because you hear him say it all the time, is the Villa game. And it disappoints me because, in my opinion, we threw that game away. So the point I would make is, in those games, are we going to throw enough of them away to get relegated? And the answer to that is no.
Personnel-wise, looking at the team, I do want to ask you a couple of questions on possible returns and what you would do. Before we get to that, let's concentrate on the players that are playing at the moment and the system they're playing in. Abdoulaye Doucouré is a name for me who in January, when I seen Fulham linked with him, I was like, fine, you know, whatever. He's quickly become somebody who's playing for the badge with a bit between his teeth, and he's so essential to this team. How impressed have you been with Doucouré, Mike?
He has been a breath of fresh air since he's come back under under Dyche, because we're seeing the Doucouré that I thought we'd signed, the ball carrier, the player who can carry the ball up the pitch in terms of, his strength and his ability. He's getting goals. He scored a couple of goals already, a couple of headers, getting in there just on the goalkeeper, little flicks over the top. That's working. Yeah. He's physical and strong enough and tall enough to win that second ball in the box. It's linking up really well with the centre halves in terms of, when these balls are coming in from corners. Tarks or Michael Keane, who has also done all right since he's come back into this side, to be fair to him. He's winning the header and he's then winning the second one. But you've also seen Anana doing the same thing. So for me, Doucouré, he's been a breath of fresh air, and he goes back to probably the first 5 games under Carlo Ancelotti. I've been that impressed with him. I think he's been absolutely brilliant since he's come back into this side. We know his weak points. We know he's not a brilliant passer of the ball. We know his first touch can be ropey. And we know at times he can lose his head. But when he's carrying the ball at defenders, and we've seen it a little bit, he's been coming out onto the right-hand side and picking the ball up and running, or he's been used in a counter-attack. He's been really, 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 really useful. So, I'm really happy with Doucouré, if I'm being honest, mate.
I do want to, I've alluded to there, I do want to get to who may or may not come back into the side.
Yeah.
First part of leading to that would be just to discuss Demarai Gray. I think on Saturday evening at Chelsea, I think despite not scoring, I think it was one of the most pleasing performances I've seen in relation to being selfless. All the things that maybe Sean Dyche didn't put him in the team for at first, but he didn't think he could be selfless. He thought you've got somebody who wants to be the match winner, and by God, all forwards do. But I'm seeing such a different side of Demarai Gray at the moment. How impressed have you been with what he's been doing for us?
Yeah, he's had a bit of a kick up the backside, hasn't he? Really, when he was dropped for Neil Maupay, I think that probably hurt him a little bit.
But yeah, that would hurt anybody.
It would absolutely. So you get the fact that it hurt him, you get the fact it probably upset him, and you get the fact that he's probably worked really hard in training to get back in front of Maupay. He should never have been dropped for Maupay in the first place. That's the only criticism I have for Dyche, the only one. But he's also not able to play in his preferred position, which is on the left-hand side, because Neil Maupay, not Neil Maupay, Dwight McNeil is playing so well. So to get in the team, he's having to do jobs that he's not necessarily had to do before, which is run the line, be aggressive up front, use his strength, tackle back, charge down defenders. This is all things that Demarai Gray isn't necessarily used to. Yeah, he's done a bloody good job at doing them. For me, Demarai Gray, his name goes on the team sheet, and you let him run and run and run until he can't run anymore. And if he gets you a goal, brilliant. Gets you a bit of magic, brilliant. He lays on an assist, brilliant. Because he's capable of doing all of those things. And I've been really impressed by the fact that he's stood up when he's needed to be counted. He's stood up and delivered.
Yeah, no, I couldn't add much more to that. I think he's a player again in January, despite him, in my opinion, being the one person who could maybe pull a rabbit out the hat in that squad. I didn't think it's someone I could rely on. Same as Doucouré. I'm now looking at this team each week saying these two must be in it. And that brings me on to the fitness of our number 9, who I think for arguably 18 to 24 months now, a lot of fans have worried about where the goals come from if you don't play him. I think Frank Lampard found a way at the tail end of last season to get goals without him. If you remember that, he did come back in for the Brentford and the Palace games and he scored. But before then, the Leicester and the Chelsea games, we were without him. We found ways to score goals that we needed. I think, again, now, this manager has found a way that this team can score goals without him. What I'm getting at, the question I want to ask you, if he's fit for the next game and he's fit for the run-in, does he come back into the side? Or do you say, no, you have to earn your shirt, you're starting on the bench?
No, he needs to earn his shirt. I don't ever think it's a positive bringing a player straight into a team when the person that he's replacing is playing well. I personally don't agree with it. I know people will say you put your best players on the pitch. I get that, and look, he is our best goal scorer without a shadow of a doubt. He's our best goal scorer, but you can't rely on him. We can't build a system for the next 10 games around Calvert-Lewin and him break down after 2 games. We can't do it. You could possibly have given him the pre-season. You could probably give him the first couple of games, at the start of the season to say, right, get your fitness up and then we'll put you in the 3rd or 4th game. For me, I wouldn't see the point bringing him in. And the only way that I would potentially bring him in, if Dyche wanted to do it, was to play him as a 2 up front, because I think that would also take the workload off him a little bit. But I don't know who you lose in midfield. Some people will say, right, you lose Onana, because I think some people have come to the conclusion that he doesn't look particularly arsed. I think that's more his demeanour, if I'm being honest. But, if people wanted to drop Onana and bring in Calvert-Lewin, then that's kind of fine, because the way that Dyche has been playing, he's been throwing one of the tall, muscular midfielders up, to win those headers. We've saw it with Doucouré, we've saw it with Onana. So that would work. The only thing is you're leaving yourself exposed in the middle of the park, and it's a risk that Dyche might not want to take, and I suspect he won't want to take, and I suspect that's why he won't do it. But that is what I would do if at home to Fulham, for example, Dyche went, right, I need to try something. I think you drop one of the centre midfielders and you bring him in and you see how well he does, but you don't bring him in for Chelsea, for Tottenham. You don't bring him in for Man United, because there's people not expecting us to win those games. So if we don't win and he has a bad performance, he's just going to have the emotional damage on top of the potential physical damage. So what's the point? So for me, he doesn't come back in. And he plays big part this season. He plays big part all season, because he could get on a run of games where he plays 3 times, coming off the bench, scores 3 goals. But he's injured in the 4th game when you want to start him, and you've changed your whole setup for him. And then Everton don't know how to adapt to that setup because we haven't got enough players in key positions. For me, I'd be asking Ellis Sims to learn everything that is good about Calvert-Lewin and hoping that he picks it up. But, Lewin ain't going to be there to be a teacher. Lewin's going to want to play football at some point. But, yeah, for me now, he doesn't come in. Not at all.
Yeah, I think everything you've said there with having to then maybe look at a system to suit Lewin, a system you can't rely on. If you build a system for 2 games and we get 4 points in the next 2, then it breaks down for the most important 4, and you've then got to change the system. It's not that I don't see it happening, but it's not something I would personally choose. Do you see Ellis Sims featuring more as we go on? I don't think it's right for us to come on and maybe say he should be starting. I think it's dangerous. But do you see now that goal? Do you think the players around him and the coach staff will now trust him more and feel better? Do you now feel like we may see more of him?
Yeah, the thing is with these players, Ellis Sims has been around the block for a while. He played in Scotland last season. He played at Sunderland at the start of the season, and he did well. I think he left Sunderland scoring 9 goals in the Championship, which isn't bad. But I think one of the big things that Sims and the fans and we all need to agree and think is that this is a major step up when you're playing Premier League games and you're playing in a team that's fighting for their life.
Yeah.
Ellis Sims came on, did a fantastic job against Chelsea, shrugs off Koulibaly, scores a great goal. Brilliant, fantastic. But you can't rely on someone who's only done that once. So for me, we bring him on like we're bringing him on at the minute. We're giving him 20 minutes. We're giving him half an hour. You might give him 45 minutes if we've had a real car crash and we're 2-0 down and you need a big, strong target man with a bit of pace and the ability to score a goal or 2. Then, yeah, you bring him in. But for me, at this moment in time, I think we've got to be careful with him because we can't overexpose him too soon, in my opinion. It can work. because the lad at Brighton, I think his name's Ferguson. He's done a fantastic job. Young lad, come into the team, done really well. But throwing Ellis Sims in, for example, against Liverpool was a mistake.
Yeah.
Ellis Sims coming on with 20 minutes to go at Chelsea with nothing to lose because Everton weren't expected to win was a really clever move, because Ellis Sims can go on and essentially do what he likes. He either gets a goal or he doesn't he? And in the end, he comes on, no pressure, scores a goal, makes it 2-2, celebrates his heart out, fair play to him. But when the pressure's on, the Tottenham at home, the Fulham at home, the Bournemouth at home, do you want to put that pressure on a 22-year-old lad in a relegation battle? In my opinion, no, you don't.
Yeah. And I think that's where, if we can get Dominic Calvert-Lewin back, that should be his role. Lewin's role should be, this hasn't quite worked, so we're going to switch the system and we're going to revert the type. I'm not going to keep it too much longer because I know we've got some stuff to very kindly give us half an hour on a Across the Park podcast. But let's put your money where your mouth is. Who are the 3 teams that should be finishing, or not should be? Who are the 3 teams who will, in your opinion, be finishing in the bottom 3 this season?
Yeah, it's difficult, and we mentioned this earlier. It's difficult because, you look at Southampton, and I think it is now time they will start falling apart. I think they will be cut adrift. You've got Bournemouth, who have actually got the right mentality. They've got the right mentality. They've gone to Arsenal, put in a performance. They went to Wolves, got a win. They beat Liverpool. They've got the right mentality. So fair play to them. But I just think it's too late. And I also think that bubble will burst as well at some point. The 3rd spot's really difficult because, look, I don't think it's us. I don't think it's Wolves. I don't think it's West Ham. So that leaves Forest or Palace.
You've also left out 2 teams there, Leicester and Forest. Do you think they'll be okay?
No, so I think it's between. I think Leicester will be fine.
Okay.
So I think it's out of Forest and Palace.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
And if I'm a betting man, this is what you want, the money mark. I think it's Forest, because I think they are hitting bad form at the wrong time.
There's always one, isn't there, who looked okay and just started. Maybe it is Forest. Maybe you're right. I think I'll go with you on Southampton. I think the difficulty with Bournemouth is, I think Bournemouth's manager, and this is no disrespect to Bournemouth as a football club, I think that whole football club, from supporter, player and manager, realises they're not a very big club and will just give you 110%, and they'll be delighted every season to stay up. And I think if you've got that mentality, that's a very different mentality to an Everton or a Leeds as a fan base who think we should be nowhere near it, and that can rub off on the players. So I think there's a benefit in Bournemouth as a club having that mentality. And I think there's always one who jump out. So I will go Southampton. I agree with Forest. I think Leeds will go. I think Leeds will be the biggest of the ones who go.
You see, Leeds I forgot to mention, but the reason I don't think Leeds will go is because I think they made the right decision with the manager. I was a bit sceptical at first. I commented on it. I said that he was finding it difficult to find a style to play, but they've seemed to be able to score goals, Leeds, and I think that is your golden ticket to staying in the Premier League. So we can agree to disagree with this one, Millsy. But
mate, I'll take any of those teams, any of them to go down.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. On your podcast right now, Across the Park, where do Everton finish this season? What number?
Do you know what? Every person who knows me who's a Red is recording this now. They're putting this on me because they know I'm not usually one to do this. I'm still worried about Everton. I'm not coming on this show, and I'm not saying that we'll definitely be safe. I do now have more of a belief, and I do believe we'll stay up. I do believe Everton will stay up. I would take 17th. I would shake someone's hand for 17th. I probably think Everton are a bottom 5 team. So I would say Everton will finish around 16th.
Okay.
Is that something you agree with, or do you think Everton can maybe do a bit better?
I think we'll finish 15th.
Okay.
But just like you've said, Millsy, offer me 17th now, and the bus stops, and we can get off. Sound.
Mate, the worry is if a Doucouré gets it, if Doucouré's ankle goes or Demarai Gray's hamstring goes, and that's the worry. And it's so strange because I'm torn with being happy we've got 10 games, then also wishing we had 2. And just let's get out of here alive. There's that many points now that we can maybe. There's the potential to have a really good end to the season. There's also the potential for things to go. So, football, man, who would follow a football team unless you're absolutely batshit crazy, like myself and Mike? If anyone's watching this on the Everton hashtag we put up, and you're new to football YouTube channels and you're discovering us and you don't know about this, man, let me tell you about this channel, the Blue Boys Network. So type in the Blue Boys Network. Before you do that, please subscribe to Across the Park podcast. But type in the Blue Boys Network. Go and have a look at the back catalogue of shows with guests, instant match reactions, which are absolutely legendary. Match previews, fantastic channel. I was a big fan of Mike before I could call him a mate. But what's coming up on Blue Boys, Mike? We've got stuff planned, or?
Oh, yeah, I don't know where to start, to be honest. The channel is going to be going through. I said I'd do this last season, but with moving house and whatever, we haven't had a chance. So the channel is going to go through quite a massive transformation in the summer. Studios being built to accommodate the plans that we have. We are also going to be doing a weekly sort of catch-up show as well, alongside the match preview, the match reaction, etc., etc. But one of the big things that I'm going to be involved in is another show called Beat the Drop, which is a show that is actually sort of been organised by a Forest fan, but that seemed to take off quite nicely last week. So, yeah, look, there's plenty of Everton content. There's plenty of me on YouTube, whether it be on DR Sport, whether it be on the Premier League, whether it be on Blue Boys Network, Across the Park, Beat the Drop. You will find me on YouTube somewhere.
You are going to retire
for you lot.
You are going to retire in your 40s, my friends. You are going to be raking it in.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. And the expansion plans is to turn it into Mr. Beast 2. That's it, yeah. Oh, dear. Mills is sitting there thinking, who's the
Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Always, mate. Always a pleasure.
Mate, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There's a few of those up here, trust me. It's been a pleasure to have you back on, my friends. I think we've covered most things. I think we've done a nice positive show that I'm hoping people do like. Please like, share, and subscribe to both Across the Park podcast and the Blue Boys Network. But Mike, I think the best way to end the show is by me just giving us an up the fucking Toffees. Thanks so much, my man.
Brilliant.